Welcome to Unspoken Tears, monthly, an opportunity for men and women to communicate about topics that are not very popular in popular media. Topics that men are finding challenging and even going to a point where total unresourcefulness and desperation becomes part of their world. Topics like trauma, domestic violence against men, sexual abuse, bullying, porn addiction, and human trafficking are topics that we've been discussing in Unspoken Tears. Much thanks to Voice of Men 360, International Men's Day, and our collaborative partners around the world that are offering and inviting us to communicate in a way that serves the male community, yet also encourages the female community and all gender communities to be part of dialogue that is respectful and progressive and proactive and positive. And so a quick disclaimer before we move forward today is please be advised that content brought forward from this event, facilitated by Voice of Men, is always brought forward in good faith, and we may bring forth dialogue and opinions that are not representative of the organization. The facts and information are believed to be accurate at the time they're offered. All facilitators, guest speakers, panel members, and audience participants are responsible for using their own good judgment in taking any actions that may relate to the discussions. The content brought forward may include discussions from where one has been experiencing emotional challenges, might be emotionally at risk. It's important that this organization is engaging in discussion forums to offer and inspire awareness and offer connections that may lead to therapeutic advice on other venues. That today we're not offering any therapy, yet we do invite you, if you are being triggered, to reach out and to connect with a center that might be able to provide therapeutic advice. With this being said, going forward, should you choose to voluntarily Welcome to Unspoken Tears, monthly, an opportunity for men and women to communicate about topics that are not very popular in popular media. Topics that men are finding challenging and even going to a point where total unresourcefulness and desperation becomes part of their world. Topics like trauma, domestic violence against men, sexual abuse, bullying, porn addiction, and human trafficking are topics that we've been discussing in Unspoken Tears. Much thanks to Voice of Men 360, International Men's Day, and our collaborative partners around the world that are offering and inviting us to communicate in a way that serves the male community, yet also encourages the female community and all gender communities to be part of dialogue that is respectful and progressive and proactive and positive. And so a quick disclaimer before we move forward today is please be advised that content brought forward from this event, facilitated by Voice of Men, is always brought forward in good faith, and we may bring forth dialogue and opinions that are not representative of the organization. The facts and information are believed to be accurate at the time they're offered. All facilitators, guest speakers, panel members, and audience participants are responsible for using their own good judgment in taking any actions that may relate to the discussions. The content brought forward may include discussions from where one has been experiencing emotional challenges, might be emotionally at risk. It's important that this organization is engaging in discussion forums to offer and inspire awareness and offer connections that may lead to therapeutic advice on other venues. That today we're not offering any therapy, yet we do invite you, if you are being triggered, to reach out and to connect with a center that might be able to provide therapeutic advice. With this being said, going forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in any of our events in any capacity, we welcome you. Should you decide that the event is not for you at this time, we respect your choice and we welcome you to join us at a later date. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And today we're talking about something that is very dear to my heart because, like many Canadians, went through periods of my life where bullying was a component. In today's discussion, we're going to be looking at lateral violence. We're going to look at scars, trauma, and lessons, and even offer anti-bullying preventive tools. Today we have two wonderful guests. Mr. Alnoor Damji is a gentleman who absolutely loves and ignites his life with his passion of offering keynotes, workshops, coaching one-on-one. He's presented to leaders and business developers across Canada and internationally. He uses his background in HR, human resources, along with over 10 years as a career strategist, and understands the strategic and tactical issues that job seekers face. And as a coach, he's highly effective in opening up new possibilities and perspectives. In 2014, Alnoor was certified in cognitive behavior therapy from the Canadian Mental Health Association. Since then, he's facilitated a number of programs, including mentoring, facilitation of mental health leads. Recently, Alnoor added Certified Flourishing Life Coach certification. He's a multiple award winner, career development practitioner, a business services Chamber of Commerce award winner, and team category business services from the Chamber of Commerce. Welcome today, Mr. Alnoor Damji. And now we're having our little mute challenge here. There we go.
Can you hear me? Thank you.
I can hear you.
Awesome.
Welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here. Much appreciated.
Let's start off with a general little quick question for you, and then I'll bring in our second guest, and we'll go back and have a little bit of back and forth of we've got everybody there. That's fantastic too. Let me introduce Shaun, because Shaun is someone that I've known for a number of years, as he's made an incredible impact here in Brampton with one of his brands that he's worked in businesses he's developed through Brampton Proud. Shaun is somebody who actually converted stutter into success, and it's part of his keynotes, it's part of his speaking, and it's one of the reasons why we invited him today to talk about bullying, to bring up some of the experiences that he went through in his youth, and even a challenge like stuttering to be able to move it to something of success. I'm just going to share a little bit of Shaun, because while I've met him in Brampton and he's made such an impact here in Brampton, he's also reached out and has won a number of awards. In 2018, the Small and Mighty Young Professional of the Year. He's influenced, inspired entrepreneurs. He uses digital media as one of his vehicles. Today, he's the CEO of DMinded. He's a future realtor, very much into lifelong learning. He's involved in TEDx Brampton as the lead organizer, and he is the founder of Brampton Proud, creator of the Shaun Small Talk community podcast, and a motivational speaker. This idea of being able to move from a total zero to hero is a theme that Shaun continues to encourage people when they're feeling their worst to look for opportunities for growth. Through his hard work and determination, he's undertaken a number of businesses, overcome a challenge of stuttering, and has fulfilled many of his dreams and continues to dream and share dreams with people. He's working along esteemed startups, businesses, and large corporate brands. And one that really stands out for me is DMinded, where it's branded very well in Brampton, helping so many different businesses, from cafes to manufacturers to the city. The city of Brampton has also worked well. Shaun's been recognized across the region, an award recipient of the Brampton Board of Trade on Top 40 Under 40. Also in 2019 and 2018, nominee of the Toronto Region Board of Trade Young Professionals, and in 2017 was nominated by the Brampton Board of Trade Business Excellence Award for mentorship, to name a few. Besides that, he's also an incredibly proud father, a loving husband, and guess what? Go Raptors. He's definitely behind the Raptors, good or bad. So welcome, gentlemen, to join us on Voice of Men 360.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Alnoor, we're going to ask you a quick question about bullying. Can you share with us a little bit about what's been your experience with bullying?
Wow, it started at age 6 and it continued until, 2020 and over. I have been a victim of childhood bullying, organizational psychological safety bullying, domestic violence, you name it. I check off all the boxes, as well as a sexual abuse survivor at a very, very young age. So you talk about bullying. Those Starbucks cups have those little boxes. I decided to create more boxes and check those off.
As you look at all of the experiences you've had with bullying, could you distill, and this is, I'm jumping ahead because we actually have a list of questions that both of you gentlemen have seen. Has there been perhaps something about your experiences that you see as a diamond that has really worked for you to be who you've become?
Thank you. That's a very powerful question, and it talks about resiliency. Those individuals that have been bullied create a sort of a shell around themselves. Since what I have done is that back in 2009, I used to weigh over 385 pounds. And I used to talk about this hashtag, micro steps to massive impact. So what I talk about in that is that all along in my journey, I used that story, and I've been able to shed that story finally at this age, to say, I'm not that story. I'm no longer that little child who was abused and carrying on that story. And that is what I do to empower others to move forward from their own traumas, whether it's PTSD or any other type of traumas.
So PTSD, folks who might not be familiar with the term, post-traumatic stress disorder, the types of experiences Alnoor has experienced in his life, starting from a very young child to teens to 20s to 30s, is something that I have found is common in a world that is evolving and changing. And it's like he's developed ways to not only deal with it, perhaps shift it from something that pulls him down to something that serves people. And that's maybe an invitation to who might be watching today, is if you're in your darkest place, perhaps the question is, what good could come from this? Might be a question. Yet I'm also inviting you to perhaps meet up with Alnoor, hear a little bit about the way he changed the narrative the story. I'm not condoning any types of abuse he went through or any type of experience. I am sharing and trying to reflect today is he's taken charge of the narrative, and he's gone from victim to victor. And that's what I'm hearing. And I'm hoping to dig into a little bit more of the tools he used today, the way that he continues to perhaps change the narrative, because the narrative that I've heard a little bit from Shaun's story, I am interested for him to share a little bit of perhaps the feelings he had as a child being picked on or bullied. And what that does from my world is it creates a bridge. Is that when you meet Shaun in the future and he's winning an award for entrepreneurship, he'll also be this person who has built the bridge from being beaten or abused or picked on or bullied to somebody who maybe is giving you a hand up instead of a punch down. Shaun, what's been your childhood story with bullying?
Yes. Well, I could talk about it. I grew up in Scarborough. It wasn't the best area, so it was more so surrounded by metro housing. And like I had an abnormal sized head. I stuttered. I'm not sure at what age I was doing it at. I forgot. I had acne at a certain age. So people would look at me and they will pick on me for my faults. I'm Muslim. I'm Pakistani. So they will look at faults. I'm not name who they are. They actually apologize to me now. But it's crazy because it's every single day, like they're poking you. And it's like you can only take so much. So, it was tough. And as I said, it was the same people and over and over and over again. And I couldn't get away from them because they're in my area. They were, my class and, in my sports team. So it was difficult. And as I said, it's something that I'll never forget. It's something that I still think about, and not in a negative light. But it's crazy how those people that bullied me, and they apologize. Some of my, closer friends now. So it's crazy.
That's something, Shaun. Thank you for sharing that, because guess what, folks? That is one of the possibilities that you might be opening up, is that the bully might actually become a friend. Because if you sometimes stand up and, like, if you're talking about sports, Shaun, I have a feeling you were rather resilient in a sporting field. And once you've gone to watching your six or watching your back, your bully can become your best friend. And that transformation does happen quite a bit through sports. Has that been some of your experiences that in your childhood?
I mean, sports is a big thing. I'm a big basketball fan. I've been playing it since I was 8 years old. I would have had a scholarship, but, unfortunately, basketball 18, 19 years ago in Canada wasn't, where it is right now. So, sports helped me, build up my respect. So people looked at me different because I was one of the top players. I'm not sure top 3, top 5, but one of the top players in my class on my team. So that kind of earned the respect where, the bully would step back a bit. And they would actually respect me for who I am, despite of my speech, how I looked. They started to, slowly start to gravitate towards backing off, and they went somewhere else, which is not good.
Has there been a case, Shaun, because I've also heard stories of the bully becoming the bully? Do you have to catch yourself, or have you had times where you have to watch yourself in becoming the bully?
Not really. I mean, in terms of being a bully, I just let my success speak for itself. So whether if it's on the basketball court, if it's getting high grades in school, I'm talking about my high school days, and even currently, up to this day, people still try to bully me. It's more so cyberbullying, like everyone on social media that tries to bash you. But I feel like, as you earn success, you gain, respect from others, whether if it's the bully or not. But I feel like my not bullying, but this my success transferred into earning respect, and the bully's just backing off.
Thank you so much. And Alnoor, I was going to get you to share a little bit about the topic that Shaun just opened up, the idea of cyberbullying. And given your research and understanding, is there a difference between the way that girls bully and boys bully? And perhaps what has some of your research displayed or shown?
That's a fantastic question. A lot of people love to hide behind the virtual walls of a computer, and they feel that they can lash out. The funny thing is, just before the show started, I was chatting with Shaun, and It was just about 4 months ago. I held a 3-day symposium on bullying, on cyberbullying, especially on LinkedIn, because I'm very much of a LinkedIn, speak about that quite a lot. And it is surprising the number of people that have come forward and said how much they've been bullied, not only because of the posts that they've created, but also there is what's called the people pods and the pods, engagement pods. And if you don't interact in the way that these individuals on the pods, they have sent out death threats, they go ahead and find where you are. So cyberbullying has taken on quite a lot. And you talked about, do women bully different than men? I am not, don't have exact information on that, so I can't exactly speak to that. But I can speak to what LinkedIn has done is really tracked down and done a lot of work in finding out these fake profiles and shutting down the engagement pods. And the earlier question you had asked was around, do bullies, those who have been bullied, bully? And, it's time to really shine the light on yourself and look at that narrative like, am I a bully? And yes, I have been. Is because what growing up, male toxicity was a normal thing. I used to lash out at my kids. And now what I've done is I'm taking more control, is meditation, exercise, being outside. And just yesterday, I posted this on LinkedIn, like both my younger son and I were feeling a little crabby. And so we got the toboggan out and went on a little hill. And he was petrified at first. And I went. And soon he was squealing with delight. So you can change all these things by taking steps to better yourself. And we can change the cycles of this trauma happening forward and forward. And if we look at this and say, hey, you know what? I'm not perfect. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of guilt. There's all this narrative that happens to those that have been bullied or those who are bullying as well. And what can we do is really look deep inside. And what Brené Brown says, imperfectly perfect. And I'm all right.
Thank you so much for that, Alnoor. And I love the tips. And I'm going to go to Shaun and ask for a few more tips, because I have a feeling Shaun tends to agree with the wellness component, the activity component. Shaun, is there a couple of other perhaps narratives or stories you tell yourself to be more resilient? Or again, being a lifelong learner that you were sharing with us also is perhaps another way that you harness that pain, that shame, that humility, that humiliation, and shift it to something that could be perceived to be positive.
Yeah, well, as I said, there wasn't a shortcut to getting out of, being bullied. It's something that continues my younger days, my, current days right now. But, you have to deal with it. You have to manage and, learn how to cope with it. And as I said, people just try to bully you. Your family, your cousins, co-workers used to try to bully me up to this date. And as I said, there wasn't really a way to escape it. And I don't fight. I never got into, gangs. So I just, stay positive. I continue to be who I was. Even somebody who stutters, like, you don't understand. I couldn't even speak. you couldn't even pay me to come on here. Even if you say, hey, here's $1 million, Shaun, go. No, I'll walk away. So just to answer your question, there's really not much that I could have done. I did have an older brother that would look up to me, but I just kept to myself. I stayed positive. I tried to avoid situations that would allow me to be bullied, or whatever word that was being used. But I just continued to work hard. I believed in myself, and as I said over and over again, is that success speaks volumes. Because when they bully you, they look at you, man, this guy's an idiot, and he works at cleaning jobs, doesn't have a girlfriend, he's good at basketball, but all the other areas of his life, which they had no clue what I was capable of, and they looked down on me, and they thought that they could continue this. So success is a big way of overcoming this. And I don't care what success is to you. It's not money. It's about just living your life, being happy, being positive. And I think that's what, hurts them.
Fantastic, Shaun. I'm picking up two concepts here that I want to get Alnoor's view on. Is when I'm hearing Shaun speak today with elegance and ease and experience. Alnoor, there's this concept of self-confidence and self-esteem. Could you share a little bit from your psychotherapy perspective? What has really been that journey of going from no confidence, no self-esteem, to that inner self-confidence, that inner voice, and how important that is?
I love that question. I have been battling with mental illness issues because of, not allowing myself to really heal properly. And by taking charge, by exercising again, improving on my, making sure that I am diligent with my meditation, mindfulness, going outside in mountains and all of that, I was able to shift back out of it. Just recently, middle of January, I woke up one morning and I opened my LinkedIn and there was this flurry of activity, and I was named as one of the top 200 leadership voices to watch for in 2022. And it was like, what? How is this even possible? Number one, Simon Sinek, and I'm number 99. I froze. I didn't post that. Why? The fear, the impostor syndrome comes forward. And just 2 weeks ago, I had taught, Shivam asked me, how do I know Linda? I'm part of the Chrysalis, and the mission is to empower, educate, and really bring forward he for she and all of those type of things. I delivered a LinkedIn presentation on creating your social branding presence. And with that, one of the ladies said, wow. I said, you know what? We believe that knowledge sharing is so important. And I would like you to deliver that in Gujarati. I speak 7 languages, and I joke around saying none of them perfect. English was the 4th language I learned. Now, this lady, I've never met her. I'm originally from Kenya, East Africa. I speak the same language as her. And on International Women's Day, she's going to be delivering LinkedIn in Gujarati. And it's going to be like a talk going, and she's going to share the principles that I had shared. And she said, oh my God, Alnoor, I can't. I'm like, yes, you can. So each of us has that imposter syndrome. Even though we come and show that we are so, we've got our things together. And at times, this noise becomes loud. And when you keep showing up, that is when that self-confidence brings forward. So when you show up, when you have a community that holds your hand and leads you up wherever you are going to be able to present what you're going to do. And when you hear the accolade from people, this lady is going to be, oh my gosh, I didn't think I knew. But there are so many people who do not know what she knows. And when we keep on pushing that needle, showing up brave, having a community and helping each other, that's how we can show up and have that self-confidence.
Thank you very much, Alnoor, and I really appreciate your perspective, because you've also tapped into this beautiful component that you can serve in more than one language. You can learn in more than one language. When we first started Voice of Men 360, we were talking about some of the ideas of the topics that we wanted to talk about. And some of them are quite dark. We're talking about trauma and domestic violence. We're talking about sexual abuse and bullying and porn addictions and human trafficking. And when Sivam and I were talking about this, in his native land of Sri Lanka, they don't even have words to describe some of these concepts. And so that was a motivator for Sivam, the founder of Voice of Men, is that he wanted to be of service to his homeland. He wanted to be able to speak to experts all around the world and perhaps offer a life preserver to people who might be killing themselves, who might have been victims of the war, who might have been the perpetrators of the war, because post-traumatic stress disorder comes from both sides. And so what you've just shared about your voice today, Shaun, quite fascinating, is now possibly broadcasted in 7 other languages around the world. You probably know more than one language, which I'm going to come to you. And when you hear Alnoor share a little bit about imposter syndrome, because there's a beauty to imposter syndrome also, is that as we grow and we become successful and we become multimillionaires, there's a fear there. And some people, when they reach the top, they commit suicide. We have seen a number of celebrities in Hollywood commit suicide. Why would the most successful Hollywood stars commit suicide? A big driver is imposter syndrome. A big driver is they don't know how to communicate effectively with themselves. And so, as I'd ask Shaun now, as he's had ups and downs with his business, an award-winning business, are you familiar with the term imposter syndrome? And what is your winning strategy with imposter syndrome?
But to be honest with you, I'm not aware of it as much. I know Alnoor explained it, in a good manner, better than I can ever do it. But yeah, I've always wondered, how are the successful and people that have everything in the world, the money, the fame, and that they commit suicide? One of my favorite actors, Robin Williams, I know, he was at the top of the mountain. He passed away. I think he committed suicide, which was kind of crazy. So, I always wonder what did it take to get to that point? Was it the lack of support, help? Did they not, speak up when they were down? So there's a lot of things that, makes me wonder. But to be honest, I'm not really sure how to answer that. I mean, I know it might be common, but yeah, I never really touched on that topic.
And Shaun, that's a beautiful response. That's called authenticity. And it's something that allows you to probably sleep well at night. Yet when people have imposter syndrome, either their external environment has built them into some demigod and they just can't walk in those steps anymore. And they have a self-defecating, self-destructive, incredibly nasty bully inside of them. And that bully, as all of us here have experienced bullying, can you imagine that bullying turning on you? Instead of having that resilience to learn, to grow, to study, to play basketball, that bully says, you're stupid, you're dumb, you don't deserve to live, you're an asshole, we're going to kill you. And that's what happens in some suicide situations. Yet I'd love to get Alnoor's perspective on a little bit more of imposter syndrome. And what would your narrative about it be, please?
Thank you. That is such a powerful question. And one that we really need to talk about is that the worst critic is the one that lives inside our head 24/7. We're not able to turn off this inner critic. We are in the shower and the mind is constantly going on and on with the narrative. And I was reading this book, actually was listening to this audiobook by Michael Singer, and it's The Untethered Soul. And what the beauty about this book is, it was one of the pivotal moments that I was able to say, why am I holding on to all of this? Why am I holding on to all of this baggage, all of this trauma? Because as I've shared, I used to be over 385 pounds back in 2009. When I started my journey, did I fail? Yes, I did. I actually did put on some weight back in 2010. And was that journey hard? Yes, it was. And all along, that bully came say, you're a failure, you're stupid. Now, where does this come from? The negative scripting comes from people that we trusted as children. Could be our teachers, could be our parents, the elders in religious places of congregation, all of those, because we believed in that. These narratives then went into our minds, and every little thing that we did not able to accomplish then became that narrative of being very strong and saying how bad you were. The things that I teach about in the cognitive behavior therapy workshops that I held were that, we write a list, write a list of good things that you do. Now, when you are in an interview, you have to bring back the positive things that you did in a star format. What was the situation? What was the task? What was the action? What was the result? Lots of people forget the result. And the same principle applies in your daily life. Look at your successes. Create a list of that. What I even make people do, and I do that, I say, write with the lipstick on the bathroom mirror, and men would be like, I don't have a lipstick. Well, borrow your partner's lipstick. You know what? Go to the cheap stores and buy those really bad lipsticks and write all over your bathroom mirror. Write down things that you're good at, because you go to that bathroom at least 2 times a day. When you wake up, brush, and whatever functions that you need to do, and in the evening when you brush again, and read those things. Have a poster by your bed of the great things. Create a vision board of not only where you want to be, but what you have done. So those are some of the tips that I can share.
These are great tips, Alnoor. I see Shaun nodding, and I want to bring in this concept of what you're saying is it's called a pattern interrupt. And so, and it has to happen quite often when you're at the peak. So it's like the peak when you're most angry, or you're most depressed, or that's when you do something outrageous, like write I love you on your mirror, or you start cutting beautiful pictures. So you start to find humor in yourself, and you bring kindness, and you bring compassion, and you bring playfulness into your own dialogue instead of beating yourself up. And so this way of actually being present, and this is what's beautiful when you go for that walk in nature and you take a deep breath, and you look at ways to engage perhaps whatever emotion you're experiencing. I also love the idea of taking charge of the narrative. And as I read Shaun's LinkedIn, I really wanted to acknowledge anyone who's watching this today. Take a look at Shaun's LinkedIn, because I think he's done a very nice narrative. I'd love Shaun to share with us the ways that came about, because I have a feeling it wasn't the first edition. I have a feeling it wasn't the second edition. I actually have a feeling that maybe you worked with a couple of people to create it, and it continues to evolve. And as Alnoor, being an influencer on LinkedIn, I'm going to encourage anyone is watching this, connect with Alnoor on LinkedIn, connect with Shaun on LinkedIn, connect with Voice of Men on LinkedIn. Yet, Shaun, taking a page out of your narrative, share a little bit about dream boarding or writing, and what you do in some of the great DMinded work that you're doing.
So, I mean, what I do, there's no magic to it. Even me as a creative professional, I'm actually the first person in my family to go to post-secondary education. So I went to Seneca College. I took a digital media course, which, to me, the person that struggled the most, I have a sibling, a brother, 2 sisters, and I'm the one that went down the hardest path in life, well, based off of my experiences. And I graduated from Seneca College, which I'm really proud of. And that was the foundation to my success. And from there, I always wanted more in life. I always wanted to, become my own leader, own boss, help many businesses and individuals, even if it's through motivational speaking, helping them grow their business. It's just the need to help others. And that's the biggest thing that, I'm looking to accomplish in my life. And, getting into real estate, that's a big thing as well for me. But yeah, I just try to, stay positive and always think about the next move in terms of what I can do to better my life. And I understand no one's perfect. Everyone has issues. I still have, mental scars from, bullies in the past. And I know, even with my wife, she's a teacher, and we kind of feel like bullying is a word that's abused and overused. And, students, oh, I'm being bullied. And they try to use that as an excuse to get away from things. But I feel like in my situation, it was just something that I had to be a part of. It made me stronger. It gave me that extra motivation and edge that no matter what I touch, I'm not going to lose. Like there's no way I'm going to fail, or there's no way I'm going to, give up on my dreams. So I just keep fighting.
I'm as you speak, Shaun, and I listen, I'm reminded of the basketball star who says, "You miss 100% of the shots you never take."
That's right. You might as
And
well
you
take the shot and live with it. If you miss, you miss. But if you don't take it, you're never going to know what the results are.
and that is an entrepreneur mindset. Is I've seen Shaun had to pivot. He's done it over the last 3 to 4 years that I've seen him in Brampton, and to pivot to work with these people, pivot to do this business, pivot, and then cyberbullying, some of the hate. And so there's always going to be naysayers. Yet one of the things Alnoor, what I'm hearing from Alnoor, is that he's got a story about being over 300 pounds and then
Yeah.
coming down. And so he's got this team, the team of experiences, the team of progress, and then he's infused curiosity to learn and to serve and to make an impact, and just in not English, yet just not in Canada, in South Africa, in Africa, in Asia, all around the world. So Alnoor, what is the way to package that using social media these days? Because I have a feeling you've really explored the powers of one platform, and we could talk about Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, any of them, yet you've used LinkedIn with the writing, with the craftsmanship, with the video, with the positive narrative, and owning the narrative that you live by. Would you illuminate for people today a little bit of perhaps even some of the lateral violence associated with bullying, yet the way that you brought in social media to be an ally? There's a term called male toxicity. And then as we move from male toxicity, which is often a type of physical bullying, to male allyship. And so share a little bit from your perspective on the way that leaders, even young leaders, can be that one in the playground that stands up for the perhaps the handicapped child, or perhaps the littler child, yet they stand up and become a male ally. What does that mean to you?
I love that. It's all about storytelling. And effective storytellers are important not only for businesses, but also to carry on the message. And that has been the trick that I speak about in my branding. As I'd mentioned yesterday, both my younger son and I were feeling the SAD, seasonal additive disorder. And I said, okay, you put on your snow pants. It was like, no. And, went up on the hill beside our house. And he was frightened to go down it. And the thing about this is that, you tell stories, and that is the story as shared on LinkedIn. And that is what people need. We are no longer, even though this is a virtual space, how do we create that connection? We are so wired for connection. And what the past 2 years has done has been incredible, devastating to mental health and mental illness, is that we are craving for this storytelling and information that is coming through. So what we did in person, in social settings, I talk about storytelling in every piece on my I Am Alnoor page on LinkedIn as well. I start out by saying that as a young child, I watched my grandmother be very delighted that when we'd go visit her in Tanzania, all the cousins and neighbors would come over for chai in the afternoon. And that is where we built the community. Growing up in a mosque in Kenya, we used to have chai after mosque on Fridays. We all gathered together. And that my aunt was the matriarch of my family. I was raised by her, not by my dad. And what she did was, we called those bakras, the concrete benches where people gathered. And over cups of chai, she would listen to the stories. And she would then get others of the committee to help these individuals. That is exactly what LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, it's about storytelling. And how can we then move from one area to another by bringing about different stories to help uplift and create? We're talking about lateral violence. We're talking about so many different, these are subjects that are taboo, and bravo to Voices of Men to bringing that forward. Because so many times what we talked about, you know, the famous actor, Robin Williams, why did he do that? Right now, what Dr. Todd Hirsch of Adversity, I'm sorry if I'm making a mistake with his name, is talking about is that we are in an eco-pandemic where people are facing the effects of the isolation from COVID and all of that, plus the mental health tsunami. Right now, this is the faces of depression. Yes, everything is great. It's not these pictures that you see that people are posting on social media, that this is not depression. Depression is showing that these people are, and all of these celebrities and all of that. We talk about Kate Spade. We talk about the famous food blogger. So many people are suffering. If we only open up these voices more and more and change the narrative that you are not alone, it takes a village. And you know what? There is no shame in asking for help. We are stronger together. And that is where we will move that needle. We've been talking too much about smashing that stigma. We talk about Bell Let's Talk Day. Oh, come on, stop it. It's not one day of the year. Yes, we get this huge publicity for one day of the year. What about the other 364 days? Where is this going? Let's smash the narrative and take action. That is the message. I'm sorry I get so passionate about this. Thank you.
Thank you. And we love your passion, and we appreciate your enthusiasm to share a message that is very dear to your heart and can save lives. And so this idea of building a village, building a community, I've seen Shaun at events here in Brampton. And the thing that is very noticeable if you get to know him is his incredible affection and love for his wife. And we have something coming up called International Women's Day. And while we're not here just to celebrate women for one day, because I have a feeling we're here to celebrate women 24/7, 365 and beyond. And so, Shaun, share a little bit about what your wife has biggest lessons you've learned from your wife in dealing through adversity.
Yes. Well, first of all, I just want to take you back, tell you a little about a bit about my history. You know, so in my younger days, I never dated anybody. So, you know, I was dealing with depression. I couldn't even communicate. I was like that loser, right? The guy that just played basketball, and you know, so she was actually one of my first girlfriends that I actually met. I was 22 years old. She was 18 at the time. I met her at school at Seneca York University. I wasn't even in school because I got kicked out. I failed 8 out of 9 classes. So I was kind of depressed. I was there, you know, just trying to fight and, you know, get my way back into college. It was kind of embarrassing. I was going through like a tough time in my life. I almost contemplated suicide, you know, at that time, you know, just like life was not going, you know, where I wanted it to be. And if you haven't read, I did get fired from every job I had. I think there was 16 of them, you know, for multiple reasons. And, you know, I've been bullied. I stood up for myself. I got injured. They fired me. I couldn't get along. So, you know, I'm trying to tell you that, you know, my wife was, you know, she saved me from, you know, potential suicide because I had nothing going for me. And she really, you know, brought happiness to my life from, you know, 22 years old to 38. She's 34 now. And I really respect her, what she does. She's a teacher. She, you know, she's a great mother, good wife to myself. And I just can't thank her enough. And you know, she's the one that saved me. And I said this multiple times, and she appreciates it. You know, I love her. And you know, a woman in your life can make a big difference, and you don't appreciate them until you have that partner. So it's been a big thing.
And gentlemen who might, my mic has been muted. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
All right. So As we talk about International Women's Day and we celebrate women, and I love the narrative that Shaun has just demonstrated for all the men out there. When we bring respect, when we bring admiration, when we bring love, when we bring a gratitude to the women in our life, whether it's your mom, your sister, we shift the vibration of this planet. A hurt, angry, bullied man, fear-driven, will do horrendous things. A man who makes that transition to honor a woman, a mother, a sister, an elderly, is part of the incredible healing that can go on. Alnoor, please bring in your perspectives on that beautiful divine masculine, divine feminine interaction that you so fully express in your storytelling, please.
I love that. Thank you so much. The world is fractured. We are all hurting right now. Look at what's happening. Ukraine and Russia. You spoke about the vibration. Love wins. And even though I'm separate right now, in my prayers at night, I do send love to my partner, mother of my children, 2 beautiful boys. I even speak about the narrative of breaking generational trauma. What my mom went through, she was pulled out of school at age 7. And I did a International Women's Day on 4 women of my life. And I was married at that time. I included my wife, and I still include her, of what she has gone through growing up in northeastern China and surviving by picking up coal and all of that. My mother, by being bullied and hit by her parents, her dad, and going on to leading a life where she became a teacher, she became an entrepreneur, a businesswoman, and really trying to find her voice. My aunt, the matriarch, who dedicated her life to serving so many people. She'd gone to England and studied education. She came back from graduating, and her eldest brother was passing away with 4 young children. She decided to dedicate her life to bringing those children up and then raising me, her youngest brother's son. To my maternal grandmother, who at the age of 13 was told, okay, can you please prepare chai, tea, as guests are coming? And her mother telling her that this is your new mother now. You're going to live with her. And as a teenager, I don't even think she was 13 as yet, to living with a bully, my grandfather. So all these 4 women have been remarkable, and the stories they share can create that impact within us. And how we can break that cycle is by the divine feminine presence and looking at, I always speak about Mother Earth, and I'm different than lots of people in my community as well. In one of my keynotes, I spoke about the sexual abuse that happened to me at the age of 8. And it was repeated, and it was in mosque, actually. And yet I've not turned away from my faith, because it's not my faith that did that. It was not we don't talk about toxicity in a person, it's the behavior. And how can you do change? Is talking about love and the vibration. And I talk about Mother Earth and Father Son. And so I am a little bit of an outcast in my faith. But you know what? I'm embracing my individuality. I'm embracing my differentness. We are all different. And it is with diversity that we are going to be better together. By talking about love and shifting that vibration, that is so important, that is how we're going to change that narrative all over the world. And in my podcast, actually, last week, I was interviewing Mark Sturgeon from England with the Near Protocol. And I said, look, it was his birthday, and I said, we talked about celebration. He didn't even know what was going on. It got everybody to start singing happy birthday. It was like, oh my gosh, Lord. And I said, Mark, I'm going to say, I love you. And that's odd. A man telling another man, I love you. And I say this to my colleagues as well. And the reason for that is the more that we put on the vibration and or love, that is the frequency we need to be tapping into. So many of us are at the third dimension, and we tap into the higher dimension. When we tap into the chakras and all of that, there's beauty in that. I can't thank you enough for asking me this, because it is a journey that I'm on. I don't know everything, and I am a student in life. Have I made mistakes? Oh my gosh, tons. Am I changing the narrative that I'm a failure? Yes, it is constant, everyday struggle that I have to look at my bathroom mirror. What I teach, I have to learn as well. And so this is a continuous journey. It's like every day, I just said I came back from a walk just before this, and I saw 2 eagles, and I was like, oh my God, eagles in Calgary, is something that is so grand and magnificent, that the Creator has created all these different beautiful things for us. And so often we're walking around eyes wide shut. But when we open our eyes and let in love, we can change the narrative.
Thank you so much, Alnoor. That was wonderful. Shaun, reaction to what Alnoor just said, please.
What can I say?
I'm curious. No, see, I'm curious from your perspective, your background, so what got triggered, what word, what thought. So it's a sincere question from a perspective. I have no idea what word or thought might be permeating in your soul right now.
I mean, you speak well. Your storytelling is great. I mean, I just can't thank you enough for joining this talk. And there's nothing that I can really say. Like, I'm just speechless. I love what your narrative is, how you express yourself, and yeah.
What's your relationship with the word love? Do you use it a lot?
I do. I think it's, as I said, it's a word that's also abused. And, love is something that can change, and by the day, by the month. So I do use love a lot, but not as often as many other people do. So I just have, passion in what I do, and, love is just a bonus.
If I was to get you to encapsulate the bullying experience that you had, and you've shared it a couple of times, yet now I'm asking it sort of in a different way. What has been a gift from bullying that you've experienced?
Well, hey, I mean, God has a plan for you, right? So he doesn't put you in a situation that you can't handle. So everything that I've dealt with, it gave me that thick skin. So nothing bothers me. I don't care who you are, how you try to intimidate me anymore. It doesn't work anymore. So, I have that thick skin. I'm extremely motivated, and my mental mindset is, more advanced than others. And, the bullying has allowed me to, achieve success in life. And I know success to everybody is, different. People look at it like, having the best car, the biggest house. No, success to me is controlling your time, making money, but controlling your time, spending it with your family, giving back to your community as much as you can. And that to me is a big thing.
That's a beautiful sharing and a beautiful perspective. I guess I'd love to ask Alnoor next is biggest lessons from bullying, and if somebody is bullied right now, what would be 3 things that you would invite them to do?
Thank you. It's my ikigai. And in my keynote, I talk about unpack. So instead of carrying all of these, the biggest thing is to unpack this trauma. And the next thing is unlearn. And in the keynote, I talk about kintsugi, the broken pottery bowl. And the wound is where the light enters you. a Rumi quote that I love. And my name, Alnoor, means the light. So you have that on my website. I use that as my hashtag and all of that. And where I'm getting to this is that we keep on learning these behaviors that are detrimental to us. What we can do is when we unlearn, we shift those behaviors and change it for the better behaviors. And it takes 63 days of continually doing that for that new behavior to stick. And from there, you can become unstoppable, the ikigai. And so that is my purpose. My purpose is that I would like to share my story in order to help others. And if you are being bullied, there's no shame. Reach out for help. Call the distress center. There are lots of avenues for help. I've been walking I turned 57 February 12th. You know what?
Mm-hmm.
I've been walking with my eyes wide shut, even by winning so many awards and not recognizing myself because I was being a people pleaser and all of that. It is up to me that the abuse is not the narrative. It is my responsibility to get help. And when you're feeling weak, learn to open up, even slowly. You may not have a community that would be accepting. But when I came out and said that, you know what, I was being abused, people didn't want to believe me. So it's time to create a new tribe that's going to be open. And there are lots of people out there. Get help. You're worth it. You matter. You matter. You matter. You're a child of the Creator. You matter.
Thank you so much, Alnoor. Thank you so much, Shaun. I would bring it into, if you are being bullied right now, it is about an opportunity to grow. It doesn't seem like that. You've got some great tips today about reach out, talk to a teacher, talk to an elder, talk to a police officer, call a stress line, have a communication, know that you are connected, part of a growing community. Reach out to somebody here at Voice of Men 360, reach out to Alnoor on LinkedIn, reach out to Shaun. So you now have a new spider web of possibility. I'd like to infuse one of my favorite tips, and that's be curious. Go online and do a little studying of bullying. Go find out about one of the beautiful questions. There is a distinct difference between the way that girls bully and boys bullying. There's research from Australia on that. Go and be curious about it. Go and be curious about the way that you might take on a bully in a positive way and convert them to be your best friend. That's a curious way. That's what Shaun was able to probably throw a few 3-pointers over his bullies' challenges. So there's a playful way to engage with bullying. So, and I'm not belittling it. It can be brutal.
Yeah.
Yet the mastery comes from the way you speak to yourself about it, the way you focus your attention, the way that you look at maybe making a contribution to someone who's worse off than you. It could be as simple as what we heard about going for a walk in nature. It could be going up to a tree and giving a tree a hug and say, I love you to a tree. It could be looking up to Father Sky and saying thank you to the sun. These are all physiology ways, but they're also neural pathways being developed of empowerment, of being uplifting, of being resilient. Be curious. And so with that, gentlemen, I am so grateful for your time and your investment and for you sharing your stories today. We're celebrating International Women's Day on the back of a topic called bullying, being aware that there's collateral damage, lateral violence, yet both of you have shared stories that are inspiring. I'm hoping that this chapter of Voice of Men 360 might be shared with you in a way that you might be able to use a little bit of it for your future programs. You've said some beautiful things today that if you want to highlight it and you want to share it, please do, because we really want to continue to shine light on your life, because you, gentlemen, are the warriors of the light. And I really appreciate you appearing on Unspoken Tears. And will you like to share your last little thought, word, feeling that
Yes.
brings this show to a close?
Can I just share one story with you guys? And something that touched my heart. So it was a few years ago. I had my interview on CTV News about my stuttering, my bullying, and this one individual called me a couple weeks after. He called me on the phone. He said, "Hey, Shaun, I'm thinking about killing myself." I'm like, "Excuse me, who's this?" And he just kept going. He started rambling, and I'm like, who are you calling? And I said, "No, I'm looking to speak to Shaun Ghulam." And he's like, "I feel like killing myself. Life is so hard." He said, "Talk to me." So I'm like, I was kind of thrown off. I was a little emotional, kind of, distraught. I'm like I never had that call ever in my life. So this individual happened to Google me. He's seen my interview. So he looked at me as a motivational speaker. So he's like, "Shaun, can you bring me up?" So I spoke to him. I gave him a prep talk. I lifted up his spirits. And, I think it was a 10-minute call. At the end of the call, he said, "You saved my life." So, that's a moment that I'll never forget. It was random, like someone's calling you saying that I want to kill myself or commit suicide. So that dare brought joy to me. I still think about it and brings chills to my body that I can have that impact without not even knowing it. So just that brief phone call can make a difference. And as Alnoor said, is just reach out, contact us, because we're here to help you. We've been through it, and I don't want you guys to suffer how I did, how Alnoor has suffered, and you can live your best life.
Thank you so much, Shaun. That's an awesome completion to that beautiful narrative tonight. Alnoor?
Thank you again for allowing me to be one of the voices of men who talks about the things that is not talked about. And yes, we can change the narrative by taking one micro step at a time, by chunking the things that are happening and being there for each other. Life is beautiful, and so are you all, and I love you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Have an absolutely beautiful week ahead, and thank you for appearing today on Voice of Men 360 Unspoken Tears.
Thank you.